Hey, hello everyone and welcome to Extreme Graphics Tech. My name is Angelo and today I am going to finally talk about the RTX 4060. This GPU was launched around May last year, so I am very late to the party. But as you know, unfortunately, I don't make enough money off YouTube to keep up with all the latest GPUs. I like normally to have the 60 series from Nvidia because I think is the lowest middle ground for most people, and they are always going to try to point to that one in order for them to keep playing the latest game. So I like to have it in my rotation of GPU testing when new games come. I can show you a broad spectrum coming from the 960 up to the 4060, 960, 1060, 2060, 3060, and 4060. So before we start with the benchmarks, I want to mention a couple of things. When this card GPU came out, it was very controversial, and not without reasons, because this card is has only 8 gigabytes of VRAM, which I think is very low considering the price and the year where it came out. I think this card should have 12 gigabytes. I think that would have been the sweet spot for this sort of car, and the next, like the 4070, should have 16, and so on and so on. So I think nowadays only the low-end cars should have 8 gigabytes at least, and this is not a low-end car, so I think this should have had 12 gigabytes. Okay, but well, the reality is it comes with 8 gigabytes. Also, the other bigger problem this car had was the memory bandwidth, which is only 128 bits, which definitely hinders the car when it comes to higher resolutions. Okay, so those two things made a lot of people discard all, blandly talk bad about this GPU. And as I said, not that it doesn't deserve it. However, we have to acknowledge the reality of the situation. This is the new GPU world we live in, okay, with high prices, because this is happening also with AMD. The 7600, which these ones compete, has the same amount of VRAM. Now it's a much lower price, a much better buy, but the truth is that it comes also with 8 gigabytes of VRAM. And I think when I see many reviews or reviewers saying don't buy this car, or not recommending it because they say 8 gigabytes is not enough, or especially when they compare it with like previous generations, like saying the jump from the 3060 to the 4060 is not enough. This thing is not even faster than 3060 Ti, or from the 960 to the 1060 we had a big jump, but this jump is not enough, and so on. It's all good, but at the end of the day it doesn't matter, because if people need to buy a new GPU, if people are out in the market because they are building their first computer, or because they need a new GPU to upgrade their 960 or their 580, or their GPU just burned and they need a new one, the reality is they're going to go out on the market and look for what is there available. So I don't want to recommend or not recommend a GPU based on the past, or based on, I think we should show the benchmarks and just let them speak for themselves, and then people will take their own decision, like say, okay, I know 300 maybe is not worth it, but this is what it is, this is what we have. Or maybe they say that they see the GPU benchmark and they say, well, I need a new GPU. There is no way around it. I'm building a new PC. I might want to, burn, or I need to upgrade from my 960 if I want to keep playing. And all I want to know is what the performance of the 4060 is, and to see if I want to upgrade to that GPU. And I think that's the very important part. So I don't want to give a recommendation or not. I just want to let the benchmark speak for themselves, and then everyone can take their own decision. Maybe they realize that 300 is good enough for what they're looking for, and that's the card they want, or maybe they say, no, that's trash and I'm going to buy something else. Because sometimes we need to realize something. Sometimes people come to my channel asking if if I would recommend this one. I said before that I haven't tested myself, but for what I read, I wouldn't, and I will recommend, if they want Nvidia, to go to like a 4060 Ti 16 gigabytes will be my recommendation in that case. And they will answer me saying, but I can't afford that one. Okay, they just can't. They don't have the money to be able of affording that car. So that's a very important point. because what many people forget is that sometimes those $100 or $200 difference can be a huge mountain for some people. So they want to buy a new GPU, they want to play, and there is people telling them, no, don't buy this, go for something higher, or this is not worth it. And then they are like, okay, I'm not playing anything or doing anything because I just can't afford that, and you're telling me this one is not good enough. So I think that's, put the people in some situation of discomfort when buying something because they feel they're buying something inferior, and I think that's not great. So having said that, let's look at the benchmark and come to the conclusions. And as usual, I'm starting my test with Dying Light 2. In this case, I'm using 1440p DLSS balance with the full RT preset. When we compare with the recent RTX 2060 Super review I did a couple of days ago, we can see that we can go a little bit higher in terms of visual quality. In this case, going to the full RT preset instead of the normal RT preset. As you can see, we are having even better performance than we had with the 2060 Super. So this is much higher than on the 60 FPS. So you can have a 60 FPS experience with this game at a very good quality using full RT. No issues whatsoever when it comes to the RTX 4060. So in this test, I'm testing now frame generation with the same preset as before. As you can see, we get over 80 FPS. Unfortunately, I'm recording at 60 FPS, so I'm not sure which frames are being recorded. I mean, the real ones or the fake ones. In any case, the game looks quite good, and you couldn't, in front of it, see any sort of artifacts or any other issues that will hinder the gameplay. From my point of view, as I've been saying for years in this channel, for a year in this channel, I honestly don't care if they are fake, if they're real, who's generating them. As long as the game look good and smooth, I don't care about the rest. So I don't know why people give so much importance to that. The important is the end experience. And talking about end experience, I wanted to push their RTX 4060 a little bit more here, and so I'm using 4K DLSS performance with the Ultra preset. This is not the RT preset, okay? So this doesn't use any form of ray tracing. However, you can see that the game is running quite good, above 60 FPS. I suppose there are points where it can go a little bit lower, but at least in the preliminary test, it seems to perform quite good. We are using DLSS performance, yes, but remember on the test I showed in the channel that the DLSS performance on 4K looks better than native 1080 and 1440p, so it's still a better image than the lower resolution. So you can play with this and still have a better quality than just going down to 1440p. But then if we want to take things a little bit further, then I decided to use 4K DLSS performance, but this time using the full RT preset, but activating frame generation. Oh man, I wasn't expecting this result, I have to be honest. I was just, you're taking things a little bit further. And I have to say, even though the game is going from around 40 at native resolution, without frame generation, to around 60 to 70 FPS, the game looks and feel really good. I wouldn't say it's like playing at full 60 FPS, but it's like playing at 40 to 45, so it's better than 30, but not quite as good as 60, which is a good compromise if you ask me, because the game felt really good and no lag at all. Now testing Hogwarts Legacy, which is an Unreal game, we can play at 1440p DLSS balance with the high preset using the high RT, and the game will run like this. It can go under 50 or under 60 FPS, sorry, so around 50 to 55, but in general the games can go up to 70 to 75, so it's a good compromise point where you're going to have a good experience in terms of gameplay. However, I have to say that if you try to play with frame generation to smooth that, the game is very VRAM sensitive, and frame generation uses a lot of RAM and the game tends to crash, so we'll need to lower the settings. So I prefer these settings for this game, for example. In The Last of Us Part 1, we know it's a heavy game. There is no too much test because the game doesn't have frame generation or ray tracing, so the game is just 1440p DLSS quality high preset, and in this case, compared to the RTX 2060 that I tested a couple of days ago, we can keep the game at a higher DLSS quality. But this comes to show you how important is reconstruction, because even with the 2060 Super, we can have a very good experience even if we are using a lower reconstruction. So the image is not as good maybe, but it's not really that bad depending on what type of monitor and distance and size you're using. So I will say this is a very good result. We're having even better performance than that, but this shows the importance of reconstruction. On Spider-Man Miles Morales, this is a game also again using the DLSS balance. We can activate both RT shadow and RT reflections and keep the game on high and very high, and we're going to have a score of around 50 to 65 FPS depending on the sun, which is not a bad result. I know I could show you this without ray tracing, but from my point of view, there is no point on buying these cards if you're not going to use all the features. Many testers and benchmarkers only use rasterization, and that's good and fine, and you can find those tests everywhere, but I think what's the point if you're not going to have and use all the bells and whistles that these cards offer? So from my point of view, the ray trace tests are the ones that are more interested, because I want to be able to see the game in the best way possible. And now using the same preset and activating frame generation, because once again, why not? Why not use everything that you have on your arsenal to make the game look good? And you can see now that we are over, sometimes even over 100 frames per second, going 90, 80 frames, which smooth out the problem we were having before. So yeah, I think, you know, if you have this sort of cards, it doesn't matter at the end of the day if the pixels are, you know, upscale and the frames are fake. The important part is how it feels and how it looks to you. And to me, this gameplay perfectly fine, no problems. I couldn't discern any big artifact or any other issues with the frame generation, so why not use all that there is in the system? Now, Resident Evil 4 is a game that I like to test for, to test the Capcom engine, and in this case, we have a very good performance at 1440p native with the RT preset. I think maybe we could have activated the highest graphical preset and still keep above 60 FPS, but this game is very memory sensitive. Unfortunately, instead of slowing down or, you know, just do swapping, the game will crash. So I prefer to keep the game at RT preset in this way. And compared to the RTX 20 Super, we didn't need to use any sort of FSR, which unfortunately for some reason Capcom is not including DLSS in any of their games. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but well, here we are with Resident Evil 4. Now, Starfield, this is a game that, you know, I think it had the biggest jump in quality coming from the 2060 Super. Not sure why, because the amount of VRAM is the same, but I was able to play a 1440p DLSS balance on the high preset, while on the 2060 Super I had to play on the medium preset and using DLSS performance. So there was a lot of sacrifice in the terms of image quality. Not that it looked bad considering it was a 2060 Super, it's just that I found that the performance was generally better on this car and also with higher quality, so I was a little bit surprised, I have to say. But anyway, as you can see, the game runs perfectly fine. It's a very slow game. It doesn't need like fast movement or fast frame rate, so you can get even better if you want to go just to 30 FPS. No, but now I wanted to push it even further, and I put the game at 4K in this case with DLSS performance using the medium preset, but activating frame generation. And I have to say that the end result was quite good. I had no issues with the game. It doesn't feel laggy. It doesn't feel bad. There was no artifacts that I could see or that ruined the game. And it felt quite good. So, as I said before, it's not quite a 60 FPS, but it's much better than playing at 30 FPS. So it's a good compromise, and you can try and just play in this way, and you're going to see it's quite good. I think it depends on the game, obviously. Some other fast-paced game may not benefit as much from going for using frame generation from 30 FPS, but in the case of Starfield, it was okay. Now we go to Alan Wake, one of the most demanding games that have come, and this is another game we can play at 1440p DLSS balance, low preset and low RT, which is the difference that we're getting from the RTX 20 Super. On the 20 Super we had to play at 1440p DLSS balance and low preset, that's it. In this case, we can play with low preset and low RT. Obviously, this is going around 30 to 50 FPS, but in this area, which is the heaviest one I have found, in other areas you're going to go above 60 or 70 FPS. I'm not quite sure. I guess it's all the vegetation that makes this area be so heavy, so you know that. But of course, I understand some people are not happy being under 60 FPS. It's the PC master race after all, and people want to play above. But in this case, if you want to keep a good quality, you will have to lower to 1080p DLSS balance, medium preset, and low RT with frame generation on. So it's a lot of things in here for the configuration to play this game at 60 FPS. But as I said before, even if you are using 1080p and DLSS balance, frame generation, the game looks quite good. It's phenomenal from my point of view what you can achieve with a $300 GPU, and we have to use everything that the cards offer, otherwise what's the point? So I will say that we can up the quality to medium preset and activate a little bit of ray tracing and play above 60 FPS and still have a very good experience. So yeah, I'm super happy with the results, to be honest. Now, testing Cyberpunk 2077, you can see that I went overboard with it directly. I went to 1440p DLSS balance and the Ultra RT preset, which means it's the preset where even global illumination is on, reflections and shadows, and still we get around 50 FPS, which is playable, but I would say it's not as stable. It will depend on your monitor and so on, of course. So you can disable some RT preset, lower the resolution, go to a more aggressive DLSS. However, this is a good start, all things considered, because I will say that at this quality, I was expecting worse, to be honest, about this title. However, we always have the option to activate frame generation, and that's what I did. And as you can see here, well, the games go above 60 FPS. You saw that we are starting for around 40 to 50, so frame generation doesn't make like a big difference here. It's not doubling the frame rate, but it's giving you that enough oomph to get to those 60 FPS. And the game, because of the nature of it, doesn't feel bad, laggy or anything. It's actually very responsive and you can play very good, no problems whatsoever. So I will say that, and this is a very good option if we want to enjoy Cyberpunk with all the bells and whistles in terms of image quality. Well, not all the bells and whistles, because we have still something saved out, and that's the path trace option. And when we go to the path trace option, we have to lower the resolution to 1080p and activate DLSS quality. But still, now that we get above 60 to 70 FPS. So by lowering the resolution and using DLSS quality, I think we are still achieving a very good image quality. But we are having the best the game can look in terms of quality. Of course, the resolution for some may be something to leave something to be desired. However, remember, this is on a 300 GPU, which I find very interesting that we can achieve this sort of performance with such a low GPU, of course, using all the AI tools it provides. Now, if we play Avatar, I feel Avatar maybe we have to tweak it manually to get the best of it, but because I couldn't get like a big difference coming from the RTX 20 Super other than resolution. Like, it's the same preset and we are using DLSS, but we are coming the RTX 20 Super. We went from 1080p and we are playing here at 1440p. So yeah, it's it's a better resolution, but not more than that. I was expecting a little bit more, but maybe we can just play at 1080p and then up the preset to high and maybe use DLSS quality instead of balance or something. But yeah, there was much difference in this game, but still very good results for a just released game. So well, have you seen, okay, this car has like a 2080 sort of performance, okay, which is not bad at all, I will say, but those two things does limit the car. However, I have to say some positive things about the car is that when we tested Dying Light 2 at 4K using frame generation, I was surprised because I was expecting to feel very bad or have a lot of artifacts, but honestly, it was very playable. Even if we were using frame generation from 30 to 60, it didn't feel like a very sluggish game. I guess it depends on the game. Not every game will benefit from going to 30 to 60, but it's also true that frame generation from Nvidia works better in this regard. While AMD recommends to use frame generation starting from 60 FPS, I have used myself frame generation from 30 to 60 on Nvidia, and the results are not that bad. I will say they are in the middle ground between, like 40 to 45 FPS is the feeling you get. So yeah, you're getting better feeling than playing at 30, more fluid frames, and it's not as smooth as 60, but it's that middle ground that allows you to have a better experience. So that is not bad. And well, in a car like this, you have to use every trick in the book to make it, work better, because this is the new era we are in. Everything is AI, everything is, fake pixels, fake frames, but as long as they work, yes, use them and have the best experience you can, so you can have better and better graphics. If you want more resolution, if you want more graphics and so on, you can use those. We even were able to play Cyberpunk completely path traced at 60 FPS. Yes, 1080p, DLSS quality and frame generation, but the game felt quite good and it looked quite amazing, even if, we're going on a lower quality in terms of resolution and so on, but the game still felt quite good, and it's very good experience, and we are having that in a $300 GPU. So yeah, I would say, you have to use all you can. Sometimes I was let down because I was expecting a little bit more, but I guess the boss was a limiting factor. On Alan Wake, we could play better than we play at 2060, but not as better as I was expecting to. And I don't know exactly why that is. Maybe it's the VRAM, maybe it's the boss, maybe it's just the car not powerful enough. But at least we can play the game at a very acceptable frame rate and quality, and that's good. However, I was expecting a little bit more. So yeah, you win some, you lose some, but at the end of the day, I think, at least we're able to play every single game. And I think if this car provides like a PlayStation 5 kind of experience, if you know what I mean. In some games you're going to be limited, while the PlayStation 5 probably going to output 4K. This one will have some issues, not because of lack of power, but because of the minuscule memory bandwidth, which is going to cause some bottlenecks. But you can still play at 1440p or 1080p, and I think sometimes even better if you're using like frame generation or DLSS and that sort of AI help to make the car behave better, and many people complain about those kind of things because they say, oh well, they are fake and so on. And my opinion about that. I don't care if they are fake or not, as long as they look good and make my car work better. I don't care if I have to use even generate and fake absolutely everything. I don't know why people care, even if this becomes a EA card instead of a GPU. As long as what is showing looks good and a good frame rate, I don't care how it's being produced. But that's on my opinion. In any case, I think that's the result for the RTX 4060. You have seen it. You have to take your own conclusions at the end of the day and decide if it's worth the price they're asking depending on your country. But there you have it. Now you have this and you can take your own conclusions. You can take your own decisions about the RTX 4060. And of course, from now on, I'm going to be putting this in my rotation of GPUs every time we're testing new big AAA games. So this is going to be part of that, together with the 3060, with the 2060, and all the other cards I have in my possession. I don't have any RDNA 3 card still yet, unfortunately. If you want to help me, well, you can become a member of the channel or just support me any way you can, just to allow me to bring more content and to test more GPUs, because unfortunately I have no sponsorship of any kind. So that's all I wanted to say. I hope you liked this video, and as always, see you on the next one.